Right, before we start, we're going to talk a little bit about proportion. Now, proportion is when we look at the different parts of the body in relation to each other. So when the human body is in proportion, that means that the body is harmonious. In other words, the head is proportionate to the arms, which are the right proportions in relation to the legs, etc. So often when people start drawing figures, they draw the legs very short. It's very common. So you get a big head and a body, and then the legs get very short. So what I'd like you to try and do is just to keep in mind that there are certain proportions that we need to think about. Now I'm going to be taking a photograph of these, which I will provide to the education department, but just for now, this is a simple diagram that shows that the proportions of the human being, the adult, a tall adult, has between 7 and 8 heads in the body. Okay, so that's the adult. A little child has about 4 heads. A small child has about 4 heads in the body. So in other words, the head is bigger and the body is smaller. And then an older child of 12 years old has 6 heads in the body. So when you're drawing adults, you can keep in mind it's more or less 7 or 8 heads. If you start drawing children, then you've got to see, the head's bigger. Okay, so that's one thing that you can keep in mind. Another very useful diagram, which I'm going to be giving you to take home to look at and to practice with, is basically a figure which shows the heads, the 8 different sections for the heads, and where the heads end. So one mid-chest, one belly button, one at the crotch area, one knees, and so it goes down. And so you can start to measure your bodies and keep them in proportion. Saying all of that, today we are going to not worry about any of that. The reason that I showed you this is just so that you keep it in the back of your mind. Because what we're going to do today is focus on observation skills. So observation skills is we're going to be doing mainly line drawing, where we're going to follow the lines around the body. And in a way, the part of the brain that analyzes proportion is not going to be used, okay? So, in other words, keep this in mind, but forget about it. We're going to be doing very chancy, playful things. This is just something that is kind of in the foundation of your being. I also want to mention that the pencil can be a very useful proportion tool, because you can actually hold it at the head of a person and count the number of heads that you find in that person, and you can use it as an angle tool. When our model arrives, I'm going to show you a little bit more about this. So that way you can start to kind of connect with your model and look at their proportions, because everybody is different. Every single person has different proportions. Some people have wide shoulders, some people have narrow shoulders. Some people have long legs, some people have short legs. Okay, so we keep the proportions in mind. So I'd like you to take this home and study it and maybe draw some sketches that relate to this. But at the same time, when we're looking at the individual, we remember that everybody is completely different. So that's a little bit about proportion. And now we are going to meet our model who's just arrived, and then we're going to start some really fun exercises.